After fear. Fear didn't leave all at once, though in some ways it felt like it did. One day, everything just felt a little lighter. A deep part of me, something I now see was thoroughly ingrained, was gone. The noticing was immediate, but I'm sure the process wasn't. All at once, there was this positive emptiness, a quiet comfort, though logically I know it was a slow wearing down, an erosion, a grand canyon of peace carved bit by bit over a large portion of my life. Still, there really was a day when that ripping, nagging, ravenous fear was nowhere to be found. It's funny, I looked for it at first, searching my heart the way one searches a house for a tie before a funeral. I assumed it must be necessary in some way I didn't yet understand. I wondered if I needed it, if something was wrong with me for no longer carrying it, if this was that deception I was always warned about, always worried about, or if this was finally freedom. It was hard to tell. So I closed my eyes and I tried to summon it once again, and back it came. But when it rushed in, I saw it for what it was. It was choking and violent, the kind of fear that paralyzes you, useless, dead weight, harmful baggage left over from a childhood of indoctrination. And then I thought about my youth, about that first third of my life, really, and I was embarrassed at my realizations because I saw that fear sat dead center. It was quiet, just a whisper, functioning in the background, needing no attention, no renewal, simply there, shaping decisions before I realized a decision was even being made, and also so very abstract, a vague pressure, a pure, cold, unrelenting gravity pulling at me so constantly that it really could go unnoticed. It was a reason to stop thinking, a reason to stay inside the lines, to not look around, to not question too hard, to not be honest with myself. But man, fear was efficient. It kept things orderly. It gave things meaning. It made hesitation feel responsible. It gave doubt a price. There were thoughts I learned not to finish, books I learned not to open, questions that never made it past the first sentence. And somehow none of that felt extreme at the time. In fact, it felt like maturity, like wisdom even. After all, wasn't the fear of God the beginning of wisdom? It saddens me that I never questioned why I should fear a God. But to me, God was God and I was not. It really was that simple. So I shut up. I got in line. I bowed my head, folded my hands, and said, "Thank you." But fear got greedy, and over time it asked for more caution, more avoidance, more trust without understanding. The warnings grew louder, but the substance didn't deepen. The consequences expanded while the explanations stayed thin. Truth shouldn't require that much protection, I thought. And yet the truth that I was supposed to believe in did. That's where I think the first peek behind the curtain happened. The escalation of how much I had to avoid just to maintain my belief, of how much I had to deny. It all became overwhelming to me, a cost I was running out of excuses to cover. And so there was that change, but only change. Not a collapse, not even a confrontation, just a thought that finally ran longer than usual. If this is true, it should remain true. Regardless became my favorite word. Reality, God, truth, they should exist cleanly, perfectly, despite me, despite my inabilities or my iniquities, independent of who affirms it or who resists it. Truth should be true regardless, period, end of story. And yet, I was even afraid of that thought. So I waited. But no punishment, no internal unraveling, just quiet, a remarkable relief. The closest comparison I have is when someone tells you to unclench your jaw and you realize you've been grinding your teeth for years. That's what letting go of fear feels like a return to what should have always been. And so as fear loosened, responsibility sharpened, choices moved closer, consequences became immediate. Without hell, harm became concrete. Without heaven, time gained urgency. Morality began pointing outward toward people, toward outcomes, toward the real cost of actions in real lives. And a new version of me started to exist. Yes, the old reflexes still were there. They still surface now and then. They just don't decide anything anymore. Fear even has its uses still, of course, but you know what? It lost its authority, and I gained the ability to sit with unanswered questions. That fear that once kept things stable, or so I thought, also kept them small. But now my universe is huge, and I love it. and it granted me ownership of my thinking, of my ethics, of my finite, fragile, deeply meaningful time. Fear no longer tells me how to live, and somehow that made life feel more serious and far more precious than it ever was before.